So not too long ago, a government funding standoff over the Department of Homeland Security sent absolute shockwaves through our airports. I mean, travelers were stranded, federal workers weren't getting paid, and in the middle of it all, let's just say some very unconventional solutions started popping up. Let's break down what exactly went down.
At the very heart of this whole thing are the actual people. This quote from an unpaid TSA worker, man, it just brings the reality of the situation right home. This wasn't just some political headline on the news. This was about real families, struggling, worried about how they were going to put food on the table, all while being expected to show up to a critical security job.
And the scale of this was just massive. We're talking about 60,000 TSA workers who were caught right in the middle of this political fight. 60,000 people getting their first ever $0 paycheck and facing total uncertainty.
Okay, so you've got tens of thousands of absolutely essential workers going unpaid. You can probably guess what happened next, right? The situation at airports all over the country just spiraled into what a lot of people were calling absolute chaos. Let's take a look at the impact on the ground.
This slide really lays out the whole domino effect. It all started with the unpaid workers, right? That led to a national call-out rate of over 10%, with hundreds of officers just straight up quitting. And the result of that? A huge staffing shortage, security lines sneaking around for 3-4 hours, and all that tension led to an increase in assaults on the officers who did show up. It got so bad that food pantries had to be opened for workers at major airports like JFK. Just unbelievable.
And look, this wasn't just an inconvenience. For travelers like Dana Marie McNichol, it felt like the whole system was breaking down. Her words really capture that frustration and honestly, the genuine fear a lot of people were feeling. They were questioning if their own safety was being put on the line because of all the political gridlock.
So right in the middle of this crisis, two very different and very public interventions get proposed. First up, former President Donald Trump came in with a pretty unconventional idea for airport security. He jumped on Truth Social and basically issued an ultimatum. He said if an agreement wasn't reached, he'd just deploy ICE agents to the airports to handle security. It was a really bold proposal, and it was obviously designed to put a ton of pressure on the negotiations.
Then, from a completely different direction, from way out of left field, came this other major proposal. This one came from the private sector.
Yep, Elon Musk gets on the social media platform X and makes this just incredibly direct offer. He said he would personally pay the salaries of all TSA workers to keep the airports up and running. This wasn't a political negotiation. This was a billionaire offering to privately bankroll a public service. And this chart just perfectly illustrates the sheer impact of that post. It was viewed over 47 million times. It just exploded and became a huge part of the national conversation. Now, the source material estimates the cost of doing this would be around $10 million per day, a staggering amount of money, but one Musk was publicly offering to cover.
Okay, so you've got a former president threatening to deploy ICE and a tech billionaire offering to pay everybody's salary. How did Washington react to all this? Well, the political fallout was immediate and it was intense. According to the source material we're looking at, Democrats were, to put it mildly, furious with Musk's proposal. See, from their point of view, the funding standoff was their main leverage to negotiate immigration policy, especially when it came to ICE. Musk's offer threatened to take all that leverage away by just solving the immediate problem for the TSA workers.
And this slide really boils the whole fight down to its core. According to the source, you had the Democrats saying, pay the TSA workers now, no strings attached, and they were accusing Republicans of holding travelers hostage. On the other side, Republicans were pushing for a bill that funded both TSA and ICE, and they were accusing the Democrats of causing the whole shutdown by refusing to fund immigration enforcement. A total impasse.
And you can hear that Democratic position loud and clear in this quote from Senator Chuck Schumer on the Senate floor. He basically framed the issue as Republicans holding TSA paychecks hostage unless they also got funding for ICE, a deal they just found totally unacceptable. Now, Senator Bernie Sanders, he came at this from a completely different angle. Instead of getting into the weeds of the shutdown itself, he used Musk's offer to shine a spotlight on the bigger issue of wealth inequality. He was basically questioning a system where a single person could even afford to fund an entire government agency.
But here's the kicker. While all this debate was raging in Washington, the reaction on the ground was starkly different. The source describes this incredible scene. There were reports of TSA agents, the very people stuck in the middle of all this, literally cheering in the airports when they heard that Elon Musk had offered to cover their salaries.
And that contrast, right there, leaves us with a really provocative and honestly, an increasingly relevant question.
When essential public services get caught in the crossfire of political battles, what is the proper role for private intervention, if any? It's a huge question that this entire airport standoff really forces